Greetings again with the Oral History Program. I'm Ray Mofield, and we're in the city of Benton today, visiting in a most unusual place in a way. It's on the old Simpsonia Road, but it's in the city, and yet it's a farm. The residence of Mr. and Mrs. Rollie Smith. We're talking to Mr. Smith, first of all, and I know several things about him. I don't know if I'll tell you all of them or not, but how are you enjoying retirement, Mr. Smith?
Fine. Really enjoying it.
Really like it.
Yeah.
Now, he was a right-hand man out at Marshall County Schools and Maintenance for how many years?
20 odd years. I don't remember the exact years, but it's in the 20s.
Uh-huh. Now, were you born in Marshall County?
Yes.
What was your father's name?
Bert Smith.
Bert Smith. And your mother's name, including her maiden name?
It was Nellie Kelly.
Nellie Kelly. Okay, so we got the Kellys and the Smiths. The Kellys, I guess, have to be Irish.
That's right.
Smiths could be almost anything.
Yes.
German, English, Irish,
Yes.
you name it. There are more Smiths, I guess you know, than any other name in the world.
I didn't know that.
Well, you know, one of the ways that we started getting surnames was by occupations. And, of course, that brought us names like farmer and carpenter and all sorts of names of that kind. And many of the Smiths were, they might have been blacksmiths, goldsmiths, silversmiths. Some of them kept the long name, some of them shortened it Smith. We wound up with more Smiths than anybody. And with that head start, we've never been able to catch them. Yeah. So it's a wonderful name. It's common. I'm sure there must be a dozen sets of Smith that you're not even kin to in the county.
Yes, that I know.
Do you have any idea about your grandparents? You know that any of them on either side?
Well, yes, I know all four of my grandparents.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Billy Smith.
uh-huh.
And I'm not going to come out with my grandmother on my Smith side because I'm not sure about her name.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
she was a Radford. I don't remember her other name.
Uh-huh.
And my grandparents on my mother's side was my grandmother was Morgan. And my grandparent, of course, was Billy Kelly, Jim Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew all four of them and had lots of acquaintance with them. I
Yeah.
played with them in their homes several times.
They got to enjoy you then when you were growing up.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's fine. Now, you were born in the county. Was it what part of the county?
It's in the western part, about midway between Elsie and Oak Level.
Mm-hmm.
They named that road now, but it's a newer name, and I don't know what the name of the road is right now.
Oh, they change up all of them.
Yes.
I used to think I lived on Wadesboro Road, and when they started naming all the roads, why, the county judge said, well, now we can't have every name in the road, every name of every road in the county cannot be Wadesboro. So, they had a bunch of Wadesboro roads and still have, but the part that I lived on, they renamed it, the one from Hardin to Wadesboro, called it Tucker Road, after Corbett Tucker. He was road supervisor there.
Yeah.
So they have changed a number of those roads, and many of the old-timers, of course, still call our road Wadesboro Road,
Yes.
although the sign says it's Tucker Road. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, I guess. Well, what grade school did you attend?
I finished high school at Benton.
You went to high school at Benton? Did you ever go to a one-room elementary school?
I certainly did.
Well, let's hear about that.
Mentor school. It's west of New Harmony Church on this highway, old Simpsonia Road, and the old building's been torn down several years ago.
Yeah.
But that's where I attended grade school.
Do you remember any of your teachers, or maybe
Yes.
one or two of them?
Yes. In the grade school?
Yeah.
Yeah, Elsie Phelps, Millie Phelps, Elmer Dawes.
And see, every one of those names was somebody that's listening
Yes.
will
Yes.
say, oh, I remember that
Yes.
person.
Yes.
Or maybe I went to school to them.
That's the three that I remember
Uh-huh.
mostly.
And when you got to Benton High School, do you remember any of those teachers, maybe?
Matt Sparkman and
Oh, now,
Addie Farr.
there's a fellow that I know, Matt Sparkman. I see that rascal every Thursday at Rotary Club meeting.
she saw him yesterday.
And we have a lot of fun together.
Addie Fawn and Waylon Rayburn. Of course,
Yes,
Mr.
Waylon came down here from Murray and married a Marshall County girl.
Certainly
didn't
did.
he? Yeah.
And,
Became county judge, I
Yes.
remember, among other things. He was an attorney. Yeah, I knew him for a long time before his death. Of course, Matt's still around.
yes.
I guess Miss Fawn is dead.
Yes, she's dead.
Well, what did you like most were you kind of mechanically minded in those days? Did you work with your hands a lot? You like that?
Well, I went 4 years into high school and with an old car, maintained it in a poor fashion. But
Well,
I made 4 years.
so
and
one way you learned
Yes.
your skills
I
was
had
keeping
to
up
walk.
an old
I walked a
automobile.
few times, the 8 miles there and back, 16 miles a day.
Mhm.
I made several trips because that car wouldn't run every day.
Well,
Trade
that-
17 times in the 4 years.
what do you know about that? That's really something.
And I gave $17.25 for the first one I bought.
Well, you beat me. I had to pay $35 for the first car I bought.
Well.
Oh, I thought I'd really got something. It was a Model T Roadster, a 27, the last one they made, and it had wire wheels like a Model A on it.
Yes.
You may remember that model
Sure do.
of T, and it, instead of having to back up the hills, you could just run right over them because they'd put the gas tank out front,
Yes.
and it just drained right in. One thing about it, on those cars, you never had fuel pump problems.
Right. Downflow. That's right.
Oh, I had a lot of fun at that. Now, your dad was a farmer.
He more or less was, he operated a sawmill most of his life and farmed some, but not a whole lot.
So you got some extra mechanical skills probably working at the
Yeah.
sawmill, I
Yes,
assume.
yes.
Was it, my great-grandfather, Hal Edwards, had a sawmill one time, I believe, and they used a steam engine on it, which he
Yes.
also used to run a wheat thresher.
Yes.
And I remember that the last year they thrashed, I think, was 1930, 30 or 31. And I thought that was the funniest thing I ever got to do, was to ride with Van Ratliff to pick up water out of Wade's Creek. He had a 300-gallon tank on a
Yes.
wagon. And we go fill that up. Of course, I'd have killed myself just to ride with Van.
Yes.
And it's about all they could do to keep that steam engine filled up. It used a lot of water. didn't it?
Used lots of water. My daddy he had 2 mills, and he gave me one of them 2 years, I believe it was, after I got out of high school. And he gave me that steam engine and sawmill, and
Mhm.
I got out of high school on Friday and went to work Monday morning with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you come along in the right years for the war to bother you?
Well, World War II.
You were
Yeah,
in service.
I was in service.
What branch was it?
I was in the medics in
U.S. Army Medical Corps.
Yes.
Okay.
I was,
Where did you take your basic training?
in Camp McCain, Mississippi.
Mhm. From there, did you have to go overseas?
Yes, I went to England and then over in France. And during the time I was in Europe, over on the continent, I was in all the armies, all the United States armies over there, exception of the 5th Army. I was in the 1st Army, the 3rd Army, 9th Army, and I don't know, the British 16th Corps, I believe, a while. And wherever they need this, that's where we had to go.
Yeah. Well, were you married when you went into service?
Yes.
You'd already. Well, now tell me where you met your wife.
I met her in the schoolroom up here.
At Benton,
At Benton.
Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Was it love at first sight?
Well, I thought so, I guess.
Okay. And whom did you marry?
I married Mattie Jo Hill.
Mattie Jo Hill, and she was also a native of
Marshall County.
Marshall County.
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to talk to her a bit later, so we'll learn more about that, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But I do know she had a brother,
Yeah, Morgan Hill.
Mhm. Yeah. And as I said, we'll find out more about that later.
Mhm.
Well, tell us some of the experiences that you were most impressed by in the service. You went first to England, was
Uh-huh. Yes. Mhm.
it? And I guess were they staging for D-Day?
No, the D-Day had done and occurred, and we went across the channel on, I don't know, D plus something. I forget the exact date, but it was the
But June 6th had already passed.
that's right, it had passed, and I don't remember what month even I went. I was on my route over there on June the 6th.
Mhm.
I know I left. Oh, yes, it was, and but it was I was staging area there in England for 5 or 6 weeks
Mhm.
before we went across the channel.
Yeah.
And went across and was attached to the 7th Army, and then was in the 1st Army 3 different times, and then the 3rd Army, finished up in the 3rd Army during the Belgian Bulge.
Oh, that was a horrible thing, wasn't it?
That
the,
was the
the
worst.
Germans counterattacked, killed a
Encircled.
number of people. That,
Encircled some. Mhm.
for example, the boy lived across the road from me at Hardin, and my high school class member, one of 14 in that class, George Allen Tucker, was
Mhm.
killed in that.
They lined up 40 men and shot them in Malmedy. That was during the Bulge.
Mm-hmm.
Found them later.
Now, I believe that started with kind of a snowstorm, wasn't it?
It's 13 below zero and about that much, about 13 inches of snow on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You could lay your blanket on the ground at night and it never would stick. It would just pick it up. It's cold. It's really cold.
So it was tough just surviving the climate, much less battle conditions at that point. Did you ever run into anybody you knew in
Yes, but it was, no, really I didn't from around here that I knew before I went to service, but men that I served with in the States, we'd get together occasionally. We'd
Mhm.
meet over there, but nobody
Mhm.
locally in this area. I don't remember meeting anybody.
Yeah. I've heard a few people tell tales like, I was walking down the street so-and-so and I ran into Toad Bryan or
Yeah.
somebody or
Yeah,
other,
I
someone
didn't-
that they'd known from Marshall County,
No,
but you didn't happen to have an experience like that.
no.
Was now in World War I used to hear Mr. Holland, who was my teacher at Hardin, talk about they lived just kind of off the countryside part-time. They sleep in haystacks, but I guess we were a little different in World War II. You had regular housing, did you? Or
Well,
tents?
not on the beginning, but after a certain portion, and there was the General Eisenhower told American soldiers to, if they didn't have a place to sleep in the dry, take one.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, well, we didn't sleep on the ground much.
Yeah.
If we was lucky enough to get a place.
Okay. Well, those people were wanting to be liberated, and as long as you were in France at least, and
That's right.
they were probably agreeable.
But that was about in the beginning of the bulges, on the later part of the
Belgium
yeah,
area.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's when he ordered.
Did you ever get, maybe you told me, but into Germany itself?
Oh yes. We went with the Third Army. We went miles and miles into Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Munich, Moosburg, I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
All right, so then the war ended, I believe VE Day was May the 8th, 1945, and did you get to come home shortly after that? Or?
It was 3 months. 3 months.
That seemed like a long time, I imagine.
Yes, it was.
But since they weren't firing at you, it was easier.
It certainly was.
Yeah.
We knew the war had ended before before May the 8th, though. We knew that it had ended, but the official announcement was May the 8th. But we knew 4 or 5 days. We could tell by what was going on.
Did you go over on a ship and back on the ship?
Yes.
Shelby McCallum was lucky in a way. He told me he rode the Queen Mary.
I heard lots of men rode that. The one I went over and come back on wasn't the Queen Mary. It wasn't similar.
It wasn't quite fixed up as a tourist attraction. They put 15,000 men in a space designed for about 5,000, I guess. So it was pretty crowded, but nevertheless they were on the Queen Mary.
Yes.
That would have been something to always remember, which of course he did. Well, you came home, and how did your wife fare while you were gone? Was she teaching then?
She's substituting, I think, most of the time. I don't believe she had a permanent job, but she's substituting most of the time.
All right, now you have how many children? Two? Two children. You had a boy named Philip. And when was he born? I mean, was it before you went to service or after?
No, it's after come back. It's 1948.
Yeah. 1948. And then Susan, I guess, was even younger than that?
No, she's older.
She was older.
She was a year old when I went in the service.
Yeah.
Just a year.
Well, what did you came back from the war, and now you're jobless, and what did you start doing?
Started farming to begin with.
You had the farm, so you could always, of course, begin farming.
Yeah.
And what did you grow?
Tobacco and corn, cattle.
Were they still worming tobacco in those days? I've forgotten.
They come out with a chemical that would eliminate a lot of that labor and do a better job too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used that.
Did you ever burn a plant bed? Or?
Sure have. Lots of times.
And that, I don't know if they still do that or not, but I see some of them, I think they put on chemicals again to
treat it now. Yeah, they do now.
Keep the weeds, which was really the only purpose, I guess, for burning the plant bed, was to kill all the weed seeds.
Yeah.
Prepare it where it would grow easily. Well, what kind of prices did we get for tobacco then? It's been now to where it brought what, $1 a pound or more?
Yes.
Brought more than that.
Yes.
Did you grow burley or dark fired?
All three kinds.
Oh, you had dark air cured
and burley.
and burley,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the old type 23 that you had to fire for.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that's about all my dad had ever raised, was that original kind of tobacco. And he once said, in some exasperation and a little bit of truth, I guess, that it took 13 months to grow it.
Seemed like it, I imagine.
Well, we'd burn the plant bed, possibly on a sunny spell in January.
Yeah.
And then by the time you sold it, it was off in February.
That's right.
Yeah, well, how did you did you work at any of the plants around here, or how did you get started with the school board?
Mr. Joe Duke called me one summer, had some classrooms he wanted to renovate and some, lot of work, electrical work and plumbing. And I agreed to work 2 or 3 weeks, and I continued working all the summer, just about it. And at the end of that summer, he asked me if I wouldn't like to stay with him, and that's when it began.
Yeah. Well, how in the world did you ever learn to do everything?
Well, I don't know if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
If it is broke, fix it.
But you were a carpenter. You could do mechanical work,
Yeah.
plumbing, and electrical work. Well, a fellow like that's pretty handy to have around the school system, maintenance it.
Well, I enjoyed it.
I know my wife used to brag on you a lot. Well, now, she started in 52, I guess it was, with Mr. Condor out at Brewers, and then Joe Duke asked her to come to teach home ec at Benton system.
Yeah.
I don't know where they were then, but sometime or other they got the old building that belonged to the Church of Christ there.
Yes.
I believe that is, well, I don't know what year that was.
I don't either. I remember the building, and I worked on it some, but I don't remember.
But Janie sort of had a little kingdom down there. She
Yes.
liked that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it worked out. They sort of made a dwelling house like out of it. And you had one room was living room, dining room, kitchen. So it was more like a home
Yes.
than just a typical home ec classroom was.
Yes.
So I guess she had a lot of things break down, and you were
Yes.
her favorite.
I enjoyed her and all the teachers. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
I did. I enjoyed the work.
Do you have any wild stories you could tell about what happened? Did the plumbing ever break and the kitchen flood, or anything you had to work on, or you have to work over? I'm sure a number of times.
Yes.
There must have been something or other in those years that would make an interesting tale.
Well, I remember one thing I'll mention. And there was a teacher told the principal that her room was too hot, and that her feet stayed hot. So I went to examine it, and I checked the heater, and it was fine, doing good. And I noticed the floor. I happened to be down checking the heater, and I noticed the floor was warmer than usual.
Mm-hmm.
And up near that teacher's desk, it was the warmest place. And I put thermometers on the floor that night, and to try to pinpoint, I knew the hot water system was hitting the concrete floor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it was well over 100 degrees.
Oh my! No wonder she's
So I had to cut a hole in the floor and fix that. That's about the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she was right. She said her feet is hot.
And it turned out it wasn't imagination.
That's right. I didn't laugh at her
Yeah.
at all.
Well, that's good. Very good, very good. Now, you stayed there then. You went to stay just one summer, and turned out you stayed about 20 years or more.
Better than 20.
And then you have retired. And what have you been doing since then? Just
I'm working mostly.
you're not one of those honeydew fellas, are you?
Well, no, I guess not.
I've
But
heard
that's
about people that
No,
they retired and their wife said, "Honey, do this," and "Honey, do that."
no. We do it both. We got a few cattle, and we have a garden, and we take care of those cattle. Go to see them twice a day, and
Well,
we
let me get
enjoy it.
along. We just got a couple more minutes here, it seems. What about do you have any grandchildren?
Have 4. Our
And,
daughter has 2 girls.
Where does Susan live?
In Radford, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
She has 2 girls, and one of them has just entered Wake Forest University, and we got a telephone call from her about 5 minutes before you came in,
Yeah.
and she's fine.
Yeah,
The other one is
that's good.
she's sophomore, isn't she? Amy, sophomore, I think.
Uh-huh.
Youngest one.
Then on the boys' side, Philip, you've got
He has a boy that's 13, isn't he? And a girl that's, 9? 13 and 9. The boy's 13, the girl's 9, and they live in Natchitoches, Louisiana.
well, there's a university there.
Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
And over on the Texas side of the line, there's Nacogdoches.
Yes.
Somewhat, if you see Natchitoches spelled in Louisiana,
Oh.
it doesn't appear to be what they call it, does it?
I just couldn't pronounce it, and I've got used to it now, acquainted with it, and I don't know whether I pronounce it right, but I get by.
We call it, and they answer when we say something. Well, it's been a real pleasure for me to interview Rollie Smith, who, as you heard, was a longtime school maintenance man, born here in the county, lived to retire, and has a beautiful home on the old Simpsonia Road, and he's inside the city limits, still does a little farming, and altogether is enjoying life. Well, I'm Ray Mofield, and we're sorry our time got away so quickly, but next week, the Lord willing, we'll try to find out a little more about the family as we talk to his wife, Mattie Jo Hill Smith. I'm Ray Mofield, as I said. This is the Oral History Program. We return you now to our studio in Benton.